Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It is Devon here, if you can believe it. I'm editing the next 3 or 4 of these in one batch altogether so that Nate can have some time off over the goddamn holiday period because he deserves it. This means nothing for you. These will be edited and scheduled to release on the typical days, so you get absolutely no change in content except due to me banking them, I won't have the capacity to read out the usual list of patron names right at the very end, because I like to do those just before they go out so that it's as current as possible. So for this one and maybe the next couple, that will be missing. But that is really all that you will notice. So without further ado, Casino Royale.
Hello and welcome to Kill James Bond. I am James Bond 007. Joining me are James Bond 007 and James Bond 007.
Hello.
And we are entering a new era here today. Gone are the silly Bonds of Brosnan and more. Instead, we're doing something a bit more dark and a bit more tactical.
Finally, a little bit of a gritty reboot.
Yes. Yes. And this is the thing, right? We have to sort of let go of our same guy thesis a bit here. In that, we see very explicitly that this is not the same guy. We have a new origin story for James Bond, Agent 007, because, of course, now all movies have to have an origin story.
That's right.
And so this Bond is, he's a decorated military veteran, a war hero, even.
Absolutely.
And we see him being recruited in this first movie of this new era, Casino Royale, which we're watching. We see him be recruited by M into an elite tier of MI6. And in order to do this, M has to visit Bond at his manor house, driving past his lions. And then...
The best thing about this is, since it has been made with hindsight on the rest of the Bond series, there are some little subtle digs at James Bond.
So we
fucking got you. We got you. Yeah.
David Niven, motherfuckers.
Debussy. He plays Debussy every afternoon from sunset until it's too dark.
That's
1967.
1967's Casino Royale.
There was another Casino Royale. There was another one.
A second Casino Royale movie has struck the Kill James Bond podcast.
And this is like an official Bond film. Like, he is called James Bond. Like, Moneypenny is in it. Like,
well, they do call him James Bond, but they pronounce it wrong on purpose. Like,
James Bond 007.
That's not either of the things he's called.
Well, M was just very Scottish in this movie.
That's true. That's true. So in this, James Bond is Sir James Bond, and he's old. He's old Bond, punished Bond, if you will, because he has retired from British government service after they made him turn in the one love of his life, Mata Hari, for execution by the French during the First World War. This is where we're going here.
Last
all the way
of
back.
The gentleman spies. He very specifically says the guy that you gave my name and number to is debaucherous.
Sex maniac.
So he's celibate is the thing. Like, he's straight edge Bond. Yes. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink. He doesn't shag.
In what's a totally novel idea for the series, he's a Bond out of time. But this time,
that's interesting.
The Bond.
Oh yeah, I've never seen that before.
The Bond out of time is the time is like about 1900. So he wears a fucking little sleeping cap and a smoking jacket. And when we see him at his manor house, where he plays Debussy and keeps lions, the first thing that we see him doing is he is exercising on what I can only describe as a sort of a manual Bond wiggler.
Yeah, but he's doing tricep dips wearing a white tie and a turban.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Like a fucking king.
Silk turban, no less.
And so M arrives along with the heads of like various other spy agencies.
Every other spy agency, all of whom Bond
French, the Russians, Americans.
And like remembers from when they were like young. He has a line, he speaks to the Russian, he's like,
I remember your chap Lenin very well. First class organizer, second class mind.
Fucking got his ass.
Shut
him.
Also, he has a stammer, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And,
he does have a little stammer at the start.
Yeah. But like M sort of exalts him to the others. He points out that he's like part of this austere, almost like celibate priesthood of spies who are like an alternative to war. He says,
A good spy is a pure spy, inside and out.
A herbal enema should fix you up.
Don't know how that drop from Never Say Never Again got in there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix-up.
I got confused because I didn't know which Casino Royale. I thought we were doing the 1954 television movie of Casino Royale instead.
I really considered it, but it's like 2 scenes long, so not
But he also hates gadgets, and he loves being retired. So when the heads of the spy agents come to him and they say, look, we've got spies being killed all over, something's really going badly wrong, we need you back. He's like, I'm sorry, from now on my life is about Debussy.
Yes. In fact, he tells them specifically that
it is now that time of day I have set apart for Debussy.
Every fucking hour, every day, baby.
I did clip just to be on the safe side.
Debussy.
Just in case you wanted. Pussy galore. Well, of course you are.
So there's he has these lines that he's talking to the guys, and he like lists out the gadgets that they obviously have. Like the CIA guy's got a big red carnation, and he's like, that sprays poison. And he goes, "Your joke shop spies, gentlemen."
Fucking again got their asses. Yeah.
At the start, I was like, "Oh, I'm in for a
David Niven, very talented actor, sells this very well.
Can either of you tell me what happens next? Because sadly, listeners, this film is from before they invented editing. So I don't really know what happens at the end of this scene.
There's a scene missing, as far as I can tell, because it ends with all of them stood around. He's refusing to come with them, and M gives the order to just shell his house.
Which is insanely funny. It's
some
just
of
like...
some of his shit explodes, M's fucking toupee flies off, and then it cuts directly to M's funeral.
Yeah, M is
what the fuck
killed
happened?
by the mortar attack that he ordered in order to blow up James
on his own
position.
Yes, James Bond is brought out of retirement by M suicide bombing himself with a mortar team.
This is what happens in the movie. This is the
just
exciting
like no time
incident.
to die.
So Bond becomes the new M, which I thought was quite an interesting thing to do.
Yes.
We also see our villains, who are not Spectre but Smersh,
which they always pronounce as Schmush every time.
They want to tarnish Sir James Bond's image as a kind of celibate and straight-laced spy. Yeah, so
all of this is controlled, by the way, through a kind of what I can only describe as a girl control room. There's a number of like...
That's where I record from.
Absolutely. You record from your little conversation pit, a circular conversation pit.
Very small conversation pit.
Little model trains going around.
In the middle of a big scale-electric model of England and Scotland. And then you give orders to a series of women who are like secreted around the countryside.
I do, yes.
So Bond...
That is true.
Bond goes to M's ancestral home in Scotland, Skyfall. Where
this is a long scene.
It goes on for a minute. This is a two-hour movie, and like it feels it. In that respect, it really is a Bond movie.
We learn that M's widow has been replaced by a Smersh double.
Yes.
And then there's about 15 minutes of movie where the joke is that they're Scottish.
Yes. but also sex comedy.
This film is to Scotland what You Only Live Twice is to Japan, and they're like, yo, have you fucking heard that there's like a whole other country up there, and like they're all like,
you train hard and fast to become a Galaglass. Second, you take a wife to give you extra special cover. So Bond goes to M's ancestral castle, where the spy playing his widow sort of like vamps Scottishly at him.
Deborah Kerr, by the way, doing an incredible job.
Yes.
We even get the extended joke where somebody explains what haggis is, and it's like, yeah, I'm aware of like it's good. I have it for breakfast. It's nice. Like Scotland is just a normal place that you could go, and they're presenting it like it's fucking Mars. You live there.
I just wouldn't say normal.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So what happens next is a sort of a sex comedy where all of these like young, in fact now troublingly young, attractive Smurf
somewhere between
agents.
16 and 19.
Yeah, he literally goes,
that's explicit.
how many daughters does M have? Oh, 11. Who's the youngest? Me, I'm 16. Who's the oldest? I'm 19. And you're just like, this is a bit of a sexual pickle for James Bond, a man committed to celibacy.
Yeah,
they keep trying to shag him, they get in his bath.
Two women in the scene are called Meg and Peg.
This is only sold by David Niven's sort of like relentless affability, where he plays this sort of like very straight arrow sort of like brigadier sort of like character. There's a fantastic little touch that I noticed where he's going past all of their rooms and they're like peering out at him in their nightgowns, and he's sort of like nodding very demurely to them, and then one of them like sort of like lunges sexually at him, and he like jumps out of the way into an enormous stuffed bear, which he also then gives the like polite nod to, and I like that a lot.
I love to lunge sexually. That's...
happens a lot throughout the course of this movie.
But Niven is about as uncomfortable from this as I am watching it.
Yes, he's wearing a little sleeping cap the whole time, and everybody is trying to fuck him, and he does not want to be fucked at all. Mm-hmm. What happens then is after this like bath, they like try and get him drunk to seduce him, and he's sort of like...
Oh, is that what happens?
Yeah, not entirely clear, but it backfires in that every single other person gets drunk to the point of catatonia, and he simply leaves.
He just outdrinks them, and he's like, good night.
The crucial thing, listeners, is that none of this is funny.
No, not even
slightly. What I would definitely make clear here is that they're trying to do jokes throughout this.
And that none of them are landing.
It's not
in the slightest.
Really landing.
Yeah. So the alleged widow, right, tries to then come into his room at night to fuck him in like.
Okay. I actually do want to. This scene is legitimately very, very good because James Bond 007. James Bond is in bed. He's reading or something, and the door opens, and Deborah Kerr is there, wearing like a night dress, and she's just like really trying to seduce this guy. And if it was Connery, you know exactly how it would go, but since this very straight attempt to seduction is intercut with shots of David Niven lying on top of the sheets wearing like a fucking
he's wearing
Scrooge
stockings
nightie with a fucking sleeping cap, just looking quite politely confused. It's so fucking good.
I want you to know that as part of a
really
sort of a this wasn't intended as method acting, but David Niven went into this movie thinking he was going to play Bond straight. He didn't know it was going to be a comedy. So that sort of informs
this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, that sort of informs a lot of his acting here. So fuck's sake, what happens next? I wrote down at this point, we're 30 minutes into this movie. I have vaccine madness. This is exhausting at this point. This is a death march.
So he refuses to have sex with her, and then she says, "Oh, as a result, you have to challenge my sons to a shot put competition," which again isn't funny, and Bond wins. And then, as a result of him winning, she genuinely falls in love with him.
Yeah, she gets insanely horny. She breaks character.
There's a grouse shoot.
Throughout the course of Bond doing the shot put contest with these big Atlas stones, right? They're picking them up. All the strong guys are picking them up and falling over. The fucking deal. But throughout it, Devrica is getting insanely lost in the sauce in terms of getting horny over David Niven.
Yes,
and the girls behind her are just fucking Mimi's lost it. All right, get her keys. We gotta lock her in a room.
Yeah,
we've stuffed it. She's fallen in love.
Shoot. They try to launch grouse-shaped missiles at him.
Yeah,
again, crucially, none of this is funny.
They try to do the sort of the ATF thing of having a big dog filled with tannerite. They fill a bunch of grouse with tannerite and then
I'm sorry, the what?
Okay.
Go on then. Let's go.
Okay, so there's two things you need to understand about this joke, right? One, the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, notorious for shooting people's dogs when they raid their houses.
ATF-X, clearly. What the fuck are they doing? They can't shove an extra word on the end.
Two, tannerite is a form of binary explosive that is detonated by violent shock, typically gunfire. Consequently, there was a gun nut meme that did the rounds about trapping the ATF into coming to your house, stuffing a fake dog with tannerite and waiting for them to shoot it and blow up the house. That's the reference that I'm making in relation to these fucking grouse homing missiles.
Okay, thank you. I got about half of that. Yeah,
could have just skipped over this, but that's why I'm on the podcast.
Nate,
so you
can put in the more you know sting here.
Yeah. Thank you.
So Mimi saves him by saying, I work for Schmersh. They're trying to do something unclear. But she saves him, and then she's like, oh, I'm dying. Please kiss me. And he kisses her, and then she's like, lol, JK, I'm not. I'm actually going to become a nun.
Yeah, I'm going to become a nun. And yeah, she does. She just leaves.
She does
do
that.
At this point, Bond leaves. He drives back down to London.
He simply leaves.
Yes.
He simply
It's a lot of
just leaves.
The scene has no point. Nothing that's happened during
so
this.
So he goes to the next location.
He just leaves.
He goes to England, but on the way down there, a sexy woman in a Jaguar E-Type tries to guide in
beautiful car.
An unmanned milk float full of explosives into his car, which is a very old-fashioned Bentley.
Which the milk float is being controlled from inside the girl control center.
Yes.
And they've got, as Alice mentioned earlier on, they've got like a Scalextrics model of England and Scotland with the little cars going around on it. It's so cute.
It's very fun.
The most obviously a Scalextric thing you've ever seen. Like, it literally
then
is.
The movie earns points for violence.
In this scene is absolutely diabolical.
Beautiful.
Just phenomenal stuff.
Sound editing hadn't been invented yet, so every time they need to spice things up a bit, much like the earliest two Bond movies, where they just slam the theme in there, they just blare some music over it, and it's really, really distracting. Anyway.
The movie earns some points for violence when the sexy lady in the Jaguar is killed by the milk float explosive pretty horribly.
Yeah, the way that the fucking synopsis on Wikipedia does this is Bond survives another attempt on his life. No. Bond manipulates events so that he can kill a woman with a car bomb. And then when she is exploded, he goes he tuts in a little
yeah, he doesn't have a one-liner. He just tuts and then continues to drive up.
Can't
That's
get the
tragic,
stuff
the
these
thing
days.
that I just did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn shame.
At this point in the movie,
does just kill a woman outright. Yes.
Yeah, he does. At this point in the movie, listeners, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to become feral.
Yes. So someone enters a scene. Would you like to take us through this one, Abigail?
I could try. So we get to London.
We do.
Bond is now the new M, which I think is an interesting kind of setup.
Yep. Yeah, his little assistant tells him, "We've got this board covered with flags for agents. Many of them are dead, and then there's one in the Caribbean." And fucking Bond goes, "What about the guy you gave my code name and my name to? What about Sean Connery?" And the guy, in a perfect Devon reference, goes,
"We've had to take him off the board, sir."
We've had to take him off the board.
I'm going to get some use out of that drop in future.
Headley's entire bit, which is the assistant, his entire bit is that he speaks weird, and it is funny.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
I'll be honest.
But the reason, listeners, that I'm going to have to become feral is that the other person in this scene is the new Moneypenny,
Yes.
who, if you can imagine such a thing, and I have imagined it many times, if you can imagine Kim Petras with an American accent, that is who is playing Moneypenny in this scene. And my notes say capital letters, italics, damn.
Bond introduces himself to her by kissing her on the mouth and then goes, Moneypenny, you haven't changed a bit. And she says, that you're thinking of my mum. I'm her daughter. And then they have a lot of like sex repartee through the rest of the movie where she's like, oh yeah, my mum used to talk about fucking you a lot. It was weird, actually.
But this is the existence of this incredibly hot American blonde woman, listeners, is the first hint that what we're actually watching here is Kill James Bond the movie.
Yes.
And that what they have done is taken all the bits from this podcast and like each of the three of us separately wrote a first draft of a script, which has then been mashed together and has become this film.
We've already had, and
We had to take him off the board, so
Yeah, that was my part of the movie.
And then we had American Kim Petras, so like, but then,
and the Tannerite birds.
I become feral because you two watched this movie before me. And what you did was you said, don't look at the cast list. You'll know it when it happens. There is a moment where you will become absolutely ungovernable. And I thought, having kept my eyes rigorously closed through the opening credits, this was the moment you meant. Because Woody Allen enters the movie.
There is a cutaway. Woody Allen is playing Jimmy Bond, which is, of course, Sir James Bond's nephew. And now we'd like to enter a part of this show that I like to call Kill James Bond Does Not Get Sued by Woody Allen. So what we're going to do is not say anything.
Yes.
Because in an incredible metaphor for Woody Allen's career post-1992, we see him being led to a firing squad.
Yeah, Woody Allen is about to be executed for his crimes in character.
Yeah, and I made some notes here and I can't read them.
He does the Woody Allen bit. He's only got one bit. My doctor said it would be very bad for me if you shot me. And then he escapes over the wall only to find that it's like there's a firing squad at the other side of the wall executing a guy. And then Woody Allen's not in the movie
This was the first time in the film
anymore.
I laughed.
Yeah, it was a good bit. I would believe that bit was written in by Woody Allen. But here's the thing, right? This movie, we'll get into the making of this movie because this is the fascinating part to me, rather than the movie itself. But Woody Allen did a pass at this script, as did everybody else. It went through like 20 drafts. And he got a legal notice. He got his lawyers to draft up a thing saying...
He's had several.
You for very good reasons, we're certain. He like got an injunction to say you cannot put written by Woody Allen on this movie under any circumstances. You cannot credit Woody Allen as having written this movie even slightly because of how bad it is. And he was right to do it. He was.
Yeah, legitimately, he did have that instruction put in.
Yeah. So that's the end of Woody Allen for now. And we go back to David Niven, to James Bond.
Take him off.
Yeah, and Bond says, okay, given my experiences in Scotland, Smersh are obviously using honeypots. They're using very sexy female agents.
I have something for this. I have the drop, in fact, because he makes two changes. Change number one.
From now on, all remaining agents and trainees will be known as James Bond 007, including the girl.
Well, that'd be rather confusing, sir.
Exactly.
Agents of Chaos. Everybody's James Bond 007. Mission 2. Because they're using these honeypots,
We find the one man all women want, and then we train him not to want women.
we make a gay super agent.
Yeah.
This is, again,
find an agent, make him gay.
As you were saying, this is Kill James Bond the movie, so
He
this is now the
literally-
spa that makes you gay scene
Yes,
in real life.
yes. He tasks Moneypenny to find the sexiest agent they have by fucking all of them, which she does. It's a guy called Cooper, and then they send him to the gym that makes you gay. And at this point, I wrote down, first, you train hard and fast to become a faggot, because they have
to take extra special color. You have
you'll
a boy
take
wife.
take a boy wife.
You take a boy wife.
So this guy's just in this gym, and then there's various like Bond girl types try and like seduce him, and at every turn what he does is he fucking judo throws them to the floor.
It's so good. This is so funny to me. This scene is
it's incredible.
legitimately
Genuinely
really good.
hysterical.
Sadly, it's also racist, but
Yes, it is.
That is true.
There's also there's an incredibly funny bit where one of them accuses him of being gay to like try and like fucking get inside. Like she does like reverse psychology. So he like she like comes up to her. She's like really sexy, and he's like, "What are you gonna do?" And she's like, "I'm not gonna do anything, but you're gonna do something unless you're one of them." And like she's like trying to like do double backflip reverse gay psychology on him, and he just like judo throws her.
He just like thinks for a second and then just judo throws her, and she goes, "Oh, you're quite good."
Yeah.
It's like,
To be fair, if I had just had sex with American Kim Petras, I also would be turning all of these women down.
yeah, every other woman on earth comes towards you and you're just like, "Judo throw, get out of here."
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm fine.
So James Bond Senior Niven then goes to find Vesper Lind, who is like
James Bond 007.
Who is retired and is now. I don't actually know what she's doing. She's girl bossing it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. She's in business. She works at the business factory.
She's primarily girl bossing it. She's dressed insanely.
Yep. Wearing a lot of like feathers.
Yeah, there's a line that's just like, "Do you always wear that at the office?" And she said, "If I wore it in the street, I'd be stared at."
Nice.
I quite like.
So she her job as James Bond 007, on orders from James Bond 007, is to recruit James Bond 007.
That's right. A fourth James Bond 007.
James Bond 007
truck podcast.
And this James Bond 007 is Peter Sellers, who is in fact appearing in this movie. Now I will point out Peter Sellers
transitorily appearing in this movie.
Peter Sellers, Earth's worst piece of shit. He appears in this movie. His terms to appear in this movie were $1 million out of a budget of $12 million.
Whoa.
3 full points, which means this movie is still earning his estate money. And on the first day of shooting, a white Bentley. And he got all of these things to be in this movie.
Now, what this does mean is that at the time, he was the person who had been paid the most to play James Bond 007.
Yes.
Like, because this was made in
between. That was
between...
true until Diamonds Are Forever, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this was made in between Thunderball and You Only Live Twice. So, like, Connery hadn't even started asking for that kind of dollar yet.
No, he was just an overgrown model. And, like, Peter Sellers was at sort of the height of his career. Absolutely.
When you say white Bentley, do you mean as like to pick him up and drive him around, or do you mean
No, they gave him the car on the first day of shooting.
Oh my god!
Listen.
Anyway, then that's the precursor to the stories about Peter Sellers.
Every other story that we will tell you about Peter Sellers is going to be morally far more reprehensible than this, because this would be cool. There is nothing else cool that he does. So. Peter Sellers
is playing Evelyn Tremble. And this was a moment which clearly I wrote because Vesper Lind, James Bond 007, says to him, "Isn't Evelyn a girl's name?" And he goes, "No, it's mine," which is a line I have used before. Not about names, but about clothing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and she seduces him, right?
Yes.
He's this expert in Baccarat.
Yeah, so we can explain now why he's in this film, but we don't find this out as the audience until like about an hour later.
No.
So Le Chiffre, who we'll meet later, is he works for Smersh.
Ball torture from Wikipedia.
Yeah. He works for Smersh, and he's going to have this high stakes Baccarat game in Casino Royale for crime reasons.
Yes.
And Evelyn Tremble,
of
Peter
Casino
Sellers,
Royale, which is not addressed in this movie.
Yeah, the plot of Casino Royale occurs over the course of about 10 minutes in the middle of the movie, Casino Royale.
But Evelyn Tremble has apparently developed a system for winning at Baccarat 100% of the time. So she's like, "Can you please, like, join MI6 and we'll go and take him down." That's kind of the gist of why he's here. But in order to do this, she seduces him. And we get a weird scene, which I guess I must have written, Because she's like, oh, like there's a closet behind you. Like, would you put on some costumes? And it's like implied to be like sexy role play. And he like comes out dressed as Hitler.
You're talking about Adolf Hitler.
You kill James Bond the movie.
Literally comes out dressed as Hitler, and it's like a fun like joke.
He does a series of voices. There's just a bit like it's the Peter Sellers does voices hour.
Yeah. He does this
Lynn's
thing.
apartment is very funny to me. He comes over and like you see that she's in the kitchen and has just like a corpse on the table covered in like wrap or something, and he like pops up on the intercom and she's like, oh sorry, hang on, give me a second. Just like dips this thing into the fridge. He's like, sorry, I was just showing someone out. And then he slowly walks through her apartment. He's walking slowly. He's not filmed in slow motion. There are things moving in normal speed in the background, but he's just slow. And there's just a series of things that she owns. There's a lot of fish. She has Nelson's column. She's just had that moved to outside her house.
Do you know what's playing at this point? Is
The Look of Love.
The Look of Love, which was written for this movie. But Baccarat spent 2 years training in real life to become Harold Zacata and also to score this movie. And the only thing that he got out of it was The Look of Love. Anyway, also, so Peter Sellers, like, she gets him in on the plot of Casino Royale, which is
whilst he's dressed as a Napoleon and then a rabbi.
Yes, you have to dress. He's like on his knees at this point, and she comes up to him, and I wrote down T for T, ass height difference. But like in general, though, for a comedian, all of his lines are fairly serious, and he's portrayed as like this sort of unironic, like sexual, like being. And this makes a lot more sense when you realize that Peter Sellers had a pass done on the script, but only for his lines to try and make himself more desirable because he just wanted to play James Bond and not do a comedy.
Yeah, he hired Terry Southern to write his dialogue and nothing else so that he could outshine Woody Allen and another man who arrives.
Another man who we will get to. So
this is also a good point to mention, listeners, that this film has 5 directors.
Yes.
None of whom are the people we've mentioned. It just has 5 directors.
Cooks.
So he goes to James Bond training school, which is underneath Harrods, which I quite like.
But the thing is, because there's another scene missing here, because we don't see that it's under Harrods. So he just goes into like Q branch and then goes, oh, you've got everything in Harrods, and everybody acts like that's a normal thing to say. So there's the usual sort of like one of the background jokes.
We get one of the best jokes in the film, which is there's like an army guy karate chopping blocks of wood, and then as Q comes past, he salutes and like knocks himself out because like his hand is super hard. I laughed at that. I thought it was good.
Oh, yeah, I did actually like that.
Now we have to
actually some of the best
talk
jokes in this movie are at the expense of the army. There's one later on that I'm excited to talk about.
Can we talk about gay cues, please?
There is a gay cue.
Notice I said cues plural because we have to do a bit of an "Are you being served?" thing. So he gets fitted for his like gadget suit by a pair of homosexuals, and this is played about at the level that you'd expect, right? It's very much like, you're in good hands now, Mr. Bond.
Again, whereas the joke before is that they're Scottish, now the joke is just that they're gay.
Homosexuals, have you heard of these? On the other hand, it does mean that, once again, highest paid Bond, also first gay Q. So Ben Whishaw Hoomst.
They give him a bulletproof vest that he never uses again, and a radio watch that I don't think he uses, but someone else does.
Yes.
And he doesn't use it, but a different Bond does,
and because they miscut this, there's a joke that doesn't land. He's supposed to like use the watch to talk to gay Q, who's in the same room, and the joke is, it's like you're in the same room. But instead, they substitute gay Q on the watch with fucking Vesper Lind, and the joke doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, because it is like you're in the... There's a scene, they talk about the pen. There's a pen, and he's about to use the pen that's lying down to sign his name or some shit, and they're like, oh, don't use that. As soon as you put that pen to paper, it sprays like poison or acid back at you. And he goes, oh, that'd be good for writing and then all 3 of them say in unison, poison pen letter.
Yeah, and then Geiki goes, they
everyone makes
always
that
do
joke,
this. Yes. Yeah.
Which I did quite like.
I appreciated that. The thing is that Peter Sellers is like a decent, well, he's a very talented comedian. He's a fine actor. Awful person. Also, like having that pass on the script to tighten up his lines actually did make some of them tighter. Anyway, so
then we need another woman Bond.
Yes, we have to recruit James Bond 007.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, the daughter of James Bond 007.
Yes, Mata Bond, as in Mata Hari. I will point out at this point that Niven has to go to India for this and experience the racism zone. And
it's cool.
Mata Hari was a very white Dutch person. Like, her name was Martha.
She was real?
Yeah. She was a real spy. Kind of overhyped in hindsight, but yeah, she was a very white Dutch woman who used to do like exotic burlesque. Margareta Geertrude MacLeod, better known by her stage name Mata Hari. So
it's a very cool but pointless dance sequence.
Yeah, and then,
so I did wonder why there was someone in the cast list builder's temple guard. I was trying to figure that out, and then they went to a temple, and I went, oh yeah, okay.
That's why. And we do a bit that is done funnier in both On Her Majesty's Secret Service and For Your Eyes Only, which is, she's a very attractive woman, but she's got a common English accent.
This is dog shit.
Yeah, that's the joke.
She just sounds a bit northern, and not even like it's not broad at all. It's like barely noticeable.
Like not even ridiculously so, right? It's not even like taken to extreme. It just seems like a person talking.
She sounds like a woman who is maybe from like
normal.
Leeds or something. Yeah. And
whereas before the joke was like, yo, you heard of Scotland? Now it's just like, yo, you heard of anything north of the M25?
No, never.
No.
To me, it's the Watford gap. You have Watford and then Glasgow and everything in between. So he recruits her. She calls him daddy a lot. She also tries to fuck him, and I'm like, that's your dad. That's your father.
There's a number of racist jokes. One is at the expense. There's a guy there, and Bond's about to explain it, but Niven Bond is about to explain the reason why he's recruiting her, and he goes, "Does he speak English?" And she goes, "Do you speak English?" And he goes, "No." And then he's like, "Right." And then just carries on. Which
classic big guy bit, classic Mungo bit. Absolutely,
absolute Mungo bit.
So Smersh have a headquarters in Berlin, East Berlin.
Yes.
Which is a dance headquarters, like a dancing school is their cover. And she used to go to the dancing school. So Bond is like, Bond, will you please go and infiltrate the school, the Black Widow school where you used to go?
She does also like get Niven absolutely stonked off of some opium tea, which is very funny. So, there's another funny joke. Notice that I'm counting these individually because there's not a lot and you got to portion them out. The joke is she leaves MI6 headquarters and she's like, well, I don't know how to get to Berlin. And the take her off the board guy calls her a taxi. The taxi driver, Bernard Cribbins. And he does a like not going south of the river that time of night joke because he goes, oh, Berlin, east or west? And when she says west, he goes, oh, that's all right then. And he drives her to Berlin. That was funny.
To me, it's funny. It's also very funny because the next scene is him driving in Berlin, and he's just like doing the classic London taxi driver thing. He's like, "Where'd you learn to drive?" Like yelling out the window.
Like almost top secret level joke right there.
And he
the kind of joke that top secret would like pull over, like gloss over to like fill a scene.
He pulls up outside the Berlin Wall, and like you're on one side and it like the camera raises over and you see on the other side of the Berlin Wall, it's just all lit red.
Yeah, balalaikas start playing.
I quite like it.
So we go to spy school, where we are introduced to Frau Hoffner, who is kind of like Edna Mode, and I like her a lot. The thing about Frau Hoffner is that she is a girl boss. Like, at one point, she literally does just try to gaslight her. Because the way she finds, like... Okay, so Mata Bond, like, uncovers the fact that there's going to be this auction. Le Chiffre is selling off his collection of rare ape NFTs in order to raise money for the fucking Baccarat game.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
pay off his gambling debts to Smash.
yeah, and
course,
she asks Frau Hoffner about this, and she just goes,
Who am I? Frau Hoffner. Never heard of her. You're insane, my child. Quite insane.
beautiful.
Yeah, so for some reason, Smash, I don't know if this is parodying something, but they're all really weird. Like the architecture's all Tim Burton and strange. The lighting's weird. Ronnie Corbett is here. Crucially, he's not funny.
No.
But plus ça change. And they're a spy school, and they're like, "Oh, we're so happy you've returned. Don't ask about this auction." And then
I'd like to before you get into that, I would like to read the entire exchange on the staircase for gaslighting.
Insane. Quite insane.
Nice.
Yes.
It goes, and I'm just going to alternate between Frau Hoffner and Martha Bond with no change in accent because I can't do them. But it goes, "Come along, child. The auction's about to begin." Auction? Tonight we're selling off one of the finest art collections in Europe. The Chief's collection. Who? The Chief. Who's the Chief? The man who owns the collection. What collection? The collection that's about to be auctioned. Who said anything about an auction? You did. Who am I? Frau Hoffner. Never heard of her. Oh, insane, my child. And I was like,
quite insane.
They're doing this while they're walking down like a fucked staircase, and I was like, that was
She's
fun.
got the
I like
sort of like Liza Minnelli cabaret haircut. She's wearing a black turtleneck and a cloak. I like Frau Hoffner a lot.
Frau Hoffman is the world's worst improv partner.
So yeah, a couple of weeks ago, at the time that this comes out, I posted on the account 3 images of our reactions in the group chat when something occurred. And since you were the first to see it, it is only fair I pass the floor to Miss Abigail Thorne to tell us what the fuck happened to break our minds in two.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. But a character enters this film. He is Le Chiffre's auctioneer. He works for Le Chiffre. You might say he's Le Chiffre's number 2 or 3. I forget.
It's a bit part, really.
5, I think.
But
it's fucking Kronstein.
Compared with Kronstein.
He walks into a shot, and I went fucking ape shit.
Yeah, I stood up and cheered.
I thought I had hallucinated this. I thought the vaccine had fucking got me. I was genuinely convinced at this point that this movie was a shared, like, folie à trois, like a shared hallucination that we
have
all
laved
had.
this film. Like, somehow our podcasts have fallen into the sludge from Ghostbusters 2, and like out of that has grown this film. But Vladek Sheybal, Kronstein from Russia with Love, is in this film.
Just
because this is Kill James Bond, the fucking movie. Vladek Sheybal walks, and he's wasted in the movie, but he fucking walks into the scene, and I've not been the same since.
He's wasted in the film as is only proper for Kronstein, as Kronstein was in the original.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
means he is essentially a shoo-in.
He could win the Kronstein Rosette.
Yes, he's going to be the first character to get a Kronstein Rosette and bar.
I'm going to pin a little lapel pin of Kronstein onto his fucking... Here you go, my man.
You earned it.
We now have to start
tier of
selling,
medals on this man.
Yeah, like, absolutely, like a fractal Kronstein Rosette.
Kronstein squared.
Yes.
But he's the
who are
auctioneer.
Bonds compared with Kronstein?
They needed 7 of them to even come close.
So Kronstein is trying to auction Le Chiffre's rare ape NFTs. But Master Bond like destroys the slides that the apes are on, and then no one can see the apes. No one can like right click and save them.
She pulls a big switch that starts displaying war on the thing, and like the American GI yells, "It's war!" and like zooms right in on his face, and like the Chinese guys who are also there say something similar, and then
racistly,
like they're running to phones to call home, and like there's a British guy who just calls up his wife and is like, "Yes, might not be able to make it home for dinner, my love. War's started."
There's a war.
So they're selling. So
on.
it turns out that the ape NFTs are actually like blackmail material. It's like photos of politicians with like girls and stuff. And the leaders of various militaries are there, including the Chinese military who are there being racist. The head of the Chinese military is played by Burt Kwok, famous Chinese actor who we have seen before.
Not now, Kato.
Yeah, because
Fantastic.
in Diamonds Are for the one where Blofeld goes to space.
Diamonds is Forever.
He was the man who says everything twice. So there he is. He's back.
So at this point, a madcap fight scene breaks out. Madcap here is not a compliment. If you think about like Cannonball Run, it's like that, but like worse. In fact, a lot of jokes happen, and then Vladek Sheybal escapes, and he gets on the phone.
I'll let you do this first.
And he gets on the phone, and this is the second point, the point at which the other hemisphere of my brain just collapsed in on itself, because he picks up the phone, and on the other end, it's Orson Welles. Orson fucking Welles is in this
Welles
movie.
Is playing Le Chiffre, and he does a fucking incredible job.
The French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence. It's French, late stage Orson Welles. There's a line. There's a line later on where he's talking about torturing someone, and he says,
Physically, I'm not going to do anything.
Which is also his approach in this movie, and I respect it so much.
He sits stock still in every scene, and
like
it's fine
Steven
because
Seagal,
he's fucking Orson Welles.
He remains seated the whole movie. He has a purely sedentary part, but he's a better actor than anybody there, and this will have consequences. But yeah, so Vladek Sheybal is then killed by Orson Welles for failing him. I know.
As always, as it always happens, such it was since the start of time.
It's the fate of a Kronstein.
A Kronstein must always be killed for failing them in a way that wasn't really their fault.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so now Le Chiffre has to play Baccarat instead.
Two points. 2 points. The first is that when Kronstein is blown up, he's in like a payphone up against the Berlin Wall.
Yes.
So he calls and he's like, "What about me?" And Le Chiffre pushes a button and the payphone explodes. And then just like a bunch of what I can only describe as like 1910s peasants just start fucking pouring through the wall.
Yeah, it took David Hasselhoff to do this in real life.
And the other thing is while they're going through the spy training school, there is one bit where they open up a door and are like, this is where we learn to fight, and it's just 500 guys doing judo throws in sped up footage, which is
wildly sped up too.
A perfect incision of James Bond. Like that's one of the only jokes that survived the 800 rewrites, which is fighting is speeding up judo throws. That's it.
Yeah, they're practicing light attack, they're practicing heavy attack, all the hits. So at this point the movie has to start an hour and 20 minutes in. The movie Casino Royale, which is about James Bond going to gamble against Le Chiffre at Casino Royale.
Act 1 is now done.
Now,
don't know who wrote the next bit of this.
Now, Peter Sellers is playing James Bond here, and henceforth we're calling him James Bond. He's back in this movie, earning his 1/12 of the budget fee. And so
not doing that well.
They try to do the thing where like a sexy woman like appears in his hotel room to seduce him, and in sort of a Bond-esque thing, he's supposed to like turn and fire a gun like past her. The thing is, right, if you fire a blank at someone, you can really at close enough range injure them. And Peter Sellers absolutely did this to this actress. This was her first scene with him. She comes onto set. She didn't know this was going to happen, and he shoots her in the fucking face. And she had a shitload of like cuts to her forehead after this. And she was terrified every time she was on screen with Peter Sellers again, because he just fucking like shot her in the fucking head, dude.
As he would be. Jesus. I've seen what happens when somebody takes a blank round like point blank to the face. It's not pretty.
Like, it still is like it is still there's still shrapnel there. Like it's a thing. A blank round is still like gunpowder in a bullet case. The end's just crimped. Man nearly fucking Alec Baldwin this last.
Absolutely.
Apart from anything else, he could have like damaged her ears or
fully.
Jesus
it's still
Christ.
A gunshot.
Like I say, every subsequent story I tell about Peter Sellers is going to be worse than the previous story about Peter Sellers.
Dread to think where we're going.
Cool guy.
So yes,
There are a number of fun lines in the scene, I will grant, which is that he fires and it doesn't like do anything, and she's just like, "You miss," and he goes, "Yes." And then she's like, "How did you get in here?" And she's like, "I took care of the porter." He's like, "My word," and he's like, "It didn't take much. He's 83." He goes, "It's a good year."
Yeah.
Now, at this point, we see Le Chiffre, Orson Welles. He is holding court at the Baccarat table, and what he's doing is a series of magic tricks. And the reason why he's doing a series of magic tricks is because Orson Welles wanted to do them, so he just did them. It wasn't written. He just decided that he was gonna do a bit of like close-up magic.
It's so good, right? And at this point, I'd like to say to the audience that we've been toying around with another award. We've had the Kronstein Rosette, we've had the Goodnight Cross, and these are piecemeal. We give them out every single movie, but sometimes someone really does go above and beyond the course of any kind of duty.
Sometimes a movie needs a hero. Sometimes somebody shows up and says,
into the screen.
My name is Dr. Kaufman.
A man will appear on screen and obliterate the entire movie simply because there are scenes where he isn't in it.
Yes.
And for
specifically, he destroys the tone of the film.
Yes.
For that, we have minted the Calman Star.
Our highest award.
For sabotaging James Bond films.
Is properly worn with a sash in white tie. The Kronstein Star for absolutely explode the Kronstein Star, the Kaufman Star. Thank you.
We're just thinking about Kronstein a lot right now. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
The Kaufman Star, which is properly worn with a sash and white tie, for exploding a James Bond film around you and falling perfectly out of the wreckage as the only person we remember. And believe me, Orson Welles fucking earns the Calman Star.
He's sitting there in sunglasses, smoking a big cigar, and he looks like Drill.
He looks like Drill.
Yeah, that will probably be the episode art after a while. We're gonna not have episode art to begin with to continue the bit. But in like 2 weeks, we'll probably add this.
What happens is that like Bond has to like sit down and do the James Bond thing with him.
He really
and at this point, I have to point out that I hated watching this movie. I really did. What I really badly want to see is a movie, or ideally like a Ryan Murphy series, a la Feud, about the making of this movie. Because Orson Welles and Peter Sellers could not stand each other on set. And the really funny it gets worse. The really funny thing is that Peter Sellers was the one who had specifically requested Orson Welles. And then what happened is Princess Margaret, of all people, accepted an invitation from Sellers to come to the studio for lunch. And he's being quite like proprietorial about it. And he's like, "My lords, ladies and gentlemen, she has arrived." And Princess Margaret comes in, does a little bit of a curtsy, walks past Peter Sellers and says, "Hello, Orson, I haven't seen you for days." Spent the whole time talking to Orson. And as a consequence of this,
sucks to suck, brother.
Peter Sellers refused to speak to Orson Welles in this movie. He refused to be on set with Orson Welles. And
that's so petty.
There's something of a problem here, considering that the next scene is Orson Welles and Peter Sellers across from a table. Like, they have to play Baccarat against each other, and he refused to be on set.
It gets worse. And I'm here I'm reading the words of the director here.
Which one?
One of them.
I reminded him that he had asked for Orson and said, "This is ridiculous. You can't get paid this enormous amount of money, ask for Orson Welles, and then refuse to appear with him. You want us to do it all in reverses. And if we do it that way, that means you don't need to be there when Orson's there, and Orson doesn't need to be there when you're there." And Peter Sellers says, "Exactly." I said, "Christ, Peter, you're behaving like a spoilt child," and he punched me in the face.
Oh my God. What a horrible man.
And so they did this scene, which is at the Baccarat table, entirely in reverses. They just had a guy who looked kind of like Orson Welles from the back and a guy who kind of looked like Peter Sellers from the back, and neither of them ever spoke to each other to do this scene.
Honestly, how petty.
Let me tell you, Orson Welles still sells this line. Like he's going like,
We aren't playing for marbles. The night is young. The rose garden is already littered with my victims.
which is like that's
Orson
quite
Welles,
sinister.
baby.
He manages to listen, his last role he played a planet in a Transformers movie, and he still gave that some impetus. So,
and he was the narrator of Ricky Tikki Tavi. Like, you don't say no to that. Like,
absolutely. But then, having been thus overshadowed, having filmed some of his scenes, Peter Sellers walked off the set, and he did not come back. He got in his white Bentley that he had been given for appearing in this movie, and he just fucking dipped. He just
Critical
left.
support for hitting the bricks. I'll be honest. I do respect it if it sucks, hit the bricks. It sucks because of a situation that he engineered every single aspect of.
And it only sucks for you. In fact, not even that. It sucks for your ego. Like, oh yeah, okay, fine, you got overshadowed. But you got overshadowed by Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Everyone was overshadowed by Orson Welles. He's huge!
He tried to, before he did this, he tried to...
So funny to be like, we need Orson Welles. I need Orson Welles or I'm leaving. Okay, Orson Welles is here. Right, I've invited Princess Margaret. Oh no, they've got on too well. I'm leaving. Goodbye. What the fuck is wrong with you? Every aspect of this was your fault.
And like, genuinely, he tried to
you shot an extra in the face.
He tried to bully Orson Welles, mostly about being fat, right? Like,
how on earth could you possibly bully Orson?
He tried. Orson Welles was getting an elevator. He was getting a lift down, and Peter Sellers went, "Oh, I don't want to get in there for like safety reasons," as if Orson Welles didn't know that he was a fat man. This obviously, this did not work, and so he just left.
I can't believe someone genuinely attempting to bully Orson Welles. It's like if you've ever spoken to a fucking black belt or this massive Marine that one of my mother's friends is dating. They're just you can't come at them because they know that they can fuck you up. There's just a limitless confidence that comes with A, being massive, B, being fucking Orson Welles.
Yeah.
And the winner of the Calman Star.
Absolutely. You can't talk to the winner of a Calman Star like that.
Honestly.
Same with Vincent Bugliosi. So, also, you remember Gay 007, who they had to train to be gay? The reason why he's in this movie is because they had to fill scenes because Peter Sellers just left. Obviously,
I wondered why he isn't in the movie until the end.
Just in case anybody doesn't know that movies aren't shot in order of scene. Peter Sellers finished scenes that are after this, but not scenes that are before this, including the fucking gay dojo. And so consequently, they had to invent a whole new character to do that.
This shit is so funny to me. And that's why there's scenes missing, right? That's why there's specifically a scene missing at the end of this, which we will get to. But it's very funny in its absence.
Because one man had an insane ego grudge against Orson Welles.
Yes.
I genuinely can't imagine being upset about getting shown up by Orson Welles. How are you gonna not get shown up?
Bond's move here, and this kind of proves that Peter Sellers is a good Bond, is to do racist accents at Orson Welles, or the guy who looks like Orson Welles.
Several times.
Multiple times. He does a couple of them for no real reason. And then he wins, as Bond does in the fucking story in the movie, whatever.
What is noteworthy and funny to me is that every single hand of this Baccarat is the same. He's got a 3 of clubs and a 2 of hearts every single time, which I did find to be quite funny.
So Vesper leaves and is kidnapped, right? By Le Chiffre. At this point, Bond goes to chase after her, getting in a racing car and having a little bit of a Sterling Moss joke. And Sterling Moss has a little cameo here. And then scene missing.
seems
I
completely
wondered
missing.
why we just cut straight to him being captured. Because if you've seen the modern Casino Royale, listeners, you know that Bond chases after Vesper, he crashes the Aston Martin and then gets captured. But we just cut straight to Peter Sellers is captured. It's like,
Yes.
oh, okay.
Nope.
Yes.
Okay.
At this point, Peter Sellers is like psychologically tortured with marching bands and LSD.
He gets put in the Jokification machine by Orson Welles.
Yes.
There's a weird horny / Scottish hallucination. It's not funny.
It's strange. And then he is killed. Like Vesper kills James Bond, Peter Sellers, in order that he not be in this movie anymore.
Does she?
Yep.
Yeah. It's not made clear at all, but she machine guns him to death.
I didn't even realize that happened. I wondered why he wasn't in the rest of the film.
Yeah, the thing is that he'd left the set, so they couldn't film him being shot. So what they did instead had is a wide shot where everyone is like shot dead, and there's also just one guy stood there who could plausibly look like Peter Sellers from a distance, and then it cuts to a close angle of Vesper shooting, and then the wide shot, there's no one stood there, and you're left to be like, he has been taken off the board.
I
didn't even realize that happened, but Smirsh break in and they kill the Shifra.
Yeah, we were really robbed of a scene of Orson Welles whipping the shit out of Peter Sellers' cock and balls.
Yeah, and
they
I think it would be
They reference that bit of the story because he's like,
he's got a carpet beer.
Yeah, and then he's like,
"Oh,
don't
reference the film that won't come out for 50 years.
Don't worry that this chair doesn't have a seat in it. It's just being reupholstered." And it's like, okay, fine.
Yeah. So my notes here just say Bond is dead, Le Chiffre's dead. 20 minutes of movie remain? Question mark.
Yeah.
Boy, do you feel every fucking minute.
Because remember David Niven?
Yes.
No. Yeah, okay.
You remember
Bond
Spy Kids 2 and how that had a coherent plot?
Crab Ape.
This is significantly less coherent than Spy Kids 2 because
back in London, David Niven and Marta Bond are going to see the Prime Minister. There's a slightly unusual moment where they drive up to Downing Street, and it's really weird seeing Downing Street not fortified like it is now.
Yeah, you can just go up to the door.
It's sort of really, really surreal seeing that. But then Smirsh come along in the flying magnet saucer from Spy Kids 2, because again, this is Kill James Bond the movie, and they kidnap Marta.
Yes, they do that.
It was Harold Wilson at the time. Of course it was.
Ah, of course.
Which is why there's a line Marta, she's like, I always wanted to see the Prime Minister. He does make me very horny or some shit like that.
Strange.
And he's like, that's crazy. Go to Trafalgar.
I think you're a bit old for Sir Edward Heath. Also a bit female. Anyway, Niven and Moneypenny, it's not defamatory. I'm not talking about anyone who's alive. Ted Heath is dead. Anyway, David Niven and Moneypenny go back. They follow the fucking flying saucer to...
No, the lady who became a nun, the lady who was Scottish, she reappears and she's like, hey, to save on this movie's budgets, we didn't get another set, so they've gone back to Casino Royale. You should go there.
I'm tuning
nice
out, man.
I'm going
to people did a lot of drugs in the 60s, and the thing about those is that they were all terrible quality. Like, 60s weed was like mostly dirt, and consequently, everybody who had a hand in writing this movie had just like inhaled a bunch of like fertilizer chemicals, and the result is
they go back. They get captured by goons.
Yeah,
the villain is revealed to be Dr. Noah. And it's Woody Allen.
It's Woody Allen. It's Woody Allen, and he
Woody Allen.
What they have is a sort of a mime confrontation.
Oh, it's Woody Allen. He's here. He's in the movie again.
They have a mime confrontation. They have a mime fight.
It's not funny.
Because the deal is that like Woody Allen can't talk in front of David Niven because of how
he's neurotic.
So he does a lot of physical comedy. He does Woody Allen physical comedy. And at this point, I'd like to note, genuinely, no Woody Allen role couldn't be improved by swapping him out for Rick Moranis.
That's true. That is true.
That's a fair point. The film briefly becomes Doctor Who, as an older man and a beautiful woman run around.
His plan is, Dr. Noah's plan is...
This germ, when distributed in the atmosphere, will make all women beautiful and destroy all men over 4'6".
It's called estradiol.
So again, Kill James Bond the movie, we have the bimbofication gas.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
and
his plan.
Short Kings Remain.
And then in the bit of the movie that I wrote, we see that like Dr. Noah has. Is it fucking? I don't even know which of these fucking bitches it is anymore.
Right, no, it's the lass who called the gay, not the gay guy. Who the fuck
It was the last agent in the gauge in the gauge.
In the gauge,
James Bond 007. He has James Bond 007 like tied to a table with big metal straps. And at this point, he has a fun line which I wrote down. You do not, in fact, have to hand it to Woody Allen to remind myself. Where he goes,
Treat all the girls you desire this way.
Yes, I undressed them and tied them up. Yes, I learned that in the Boy Scouts.
I think it's a funny line.
Okay.
Sue me.
My notes here just say the real villain is Woody Allen.
Yes, that's true.
That is
we will not be
true.
commenting on.
That's objectively true in the course of the movie. So
also, he's
an
developed a
observation.
pill that makes you explode, and he's going to assassinate and replace all world leaders with robot doubles. It's just one plan. Pick one plan.
Yeah,
he's doing a lot.
He is. She tricks him into
sucks.
She tricks him into swallowing the pill, and at this point, the ending of Blazing Saddles happens, which is impressive to rip off, given that movie came out 10 years later.
Yeah, there's also a funny line where he's like, imagine a world where there's no poverty and no exploitation, and everyone's like free to do whatever they want. And she says, "Oh, is that what you're for?" And he goes, "No, I'm against all of that," which is quite funny. The Bonds escape. Frankenstein from Van Helsing is there because, again, killed James Bond
David
the movie.
Prowse.
Frankenstein is in the film.
The fucking like a bunch of cowboys show up, a bunch of Native Americans show up. It's even more racist. It's
there are
really
two
racist.
sea lions.
It's literally the bit. It's the end of Blazing Saddles. But
it is the end of Blazing
funny.
Saddles. Even like to the point where a big fight breaks out and like a bunch of fucking cowboys just arrive as well, and they're running through Casino Royale.
A bubble machine, a chimp wearing a wig, a roulette wheel that fires knives, naked women covered in gold.
It's a lot worse than all of this makes it sound.
No, this sound like we're struggling to remember what happened, but let me tell you, it's about 8 full minutes of just
and
things
you feel
occurring.
it. You feel it. I was watching the like countdown to the end of this movie, and I was like, 5 more minutes, please. It would be nice if this movie ended.
There are 3 colorway jokes, and one of them did actually get me. Where, and I hate to say it, a bunch of cowboys show up, right, and there's a cutaway to the Old West where they're all riding, and then they arrive and thing. And there's also a bunch of Native Americans, unclear what tribe or people they're supposed to be because they're all played by white guys. And they parachute in, and then there is someone goes, "Call the police," and there's a cutaway to like 1850s style, like sped up footage of a bunch of bobbies getting on an old station wagon and some falling off as it drives away, and I did find that funny.
Jean-Paul Belmondo is in this movie because we haven't destroyed enough beloved actors' reputations. What? Okay, fine.
I don't know who any of these people are.
From like Breathless or Vive sa vie, any like Godard movie, he's got the like lips and he's never mind. Anyway, so he's in this movie. He's also stupid. What happens then is
a guy just approaches another guy and he's holding a gun and he just goes, "This gun shoots backwards. I just killed myself," and then falls over. And I'm like,
"This topical? What?
Cinema."
Woody Allen explodes in a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, and it kills everyone.
Everyone dies.
And then
everyone goes to heaven except Woody Allen, who goes to hell.
Yes, Woody Allen goes to hell. Every other James Bond goes to heaven.
Credits.
All Bonds go to heaven. I swear to God.
7 Jameses Bond arrive, and they all die.
This is all done like musically too. No,
I forgot to mention as well, by the way, that Vesper is played by Ursula Andress, who was, of course, Honey Rider in Doctor No.
Really?
So I'm gonna hear.
Didn't clock that. Wow.
Give you a brief
like this time, so
a very brief précis of the rest of Peter Sellers' career, right? Because I didn't plumb the absolute depths of what a piece of shit this guy is. So this happened in the middle of his career, sort of stalling for the first of about 3 times due to like constant drinking, constant like abuse, like cocaine use. This was right before his like extremely abusive marriage with Britt Ekland imploded. And I mean, he fired his wife from another movie using the same move that he used on Orson Welles, which is if she's on set, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. That's not the worst thing. The worst thing, as I'm like scanning through here, is that he had his comeback thing, his like almost his Oscar-winning role was Being There, right? Where he plays this like simple gardener who like gets elevated to the halls of power, right? And I'm just gonna read you this paragraph from his Wikipedia page. In March 1980, Sellers asked his 15-year-old daughter Victoria what she thought about Being There. She reported later that, I said yes, I thought it was great, but then I said, you look like a little fat old man. He threw his drink over me and told me to get the next plane home. When his other daughter, Sarah, told Sellers her thoughts about the incident, he sent her a telegram that read, after what happened this morning with Victoria, I shall be happy if I never hear from you again. I won't tell you what I think of you. It must be obvious. Goodbye, your father. Earth's worst piece of shit.
Honestly.
Awful man.
Why?
That's just who he was, and that's also part of the reason why, like, his sort of like tyrannical nature is why this movie is the way that it is. It's why it's such a mess.
The film flopped, and Joseph McGrath, who was one of the directors, one of 800 directors,
the one he punched in the face
by some of the producers who said, "Look, we don't blame you for all the shit that occurred during filming, but they made it clear that they never want to work with that bastard ever again," which they were very close to Peter Sellers.
I think it goes to show listeners that the myth of the kind of like the tortured, brooding genius who's like horrible to everyone around him but produces amazing art is just false, because this film is not good. It's not worth
he got
treating people like that, but this one
and
especially
it's still
isn't.
bad. And
it's a damn shame that this has absolutely ruined Sellers for me, because I really like Dr. Strangelove.
I liked the Pink Panther.
This is also the point at which Eon Productions decide, okay, we're not letting fucking anybody else do anything to do with James Bond ever. There's this one guy who is able to do like a court-ordered thunderball that we're not able to stop. Other than that, nobody else is adapting this. We are very strictly exercising our like sole adaptation rights here.
I'd like to read one more thing from the trivia section of IMDb, which I really enjoy, which is producer Charles K. Feldman originally intended to make the film as a co-production with the official Bond series producers Harry Saltzman and Albert Broccoli, with Sean Connery playing James Bond and Shirley MacLaine as Vesper Lind. Saltzman and Broccoli had just produced Thunderball and didn't want to do another one so soon. United Artists supposedly offered Feldman $500,000 for the rights to Casino Royale in '65, but he rejected that. Forced to produce the film on his own, Feldman approached Connery to star as Bond. Connery asked for $1 million to play him, and he said no. So Feldman decided to turn the film into a spoof. He cast David Niven, and after the film went through numerous production problems, the budget went to shit. He met Connery at a Hollywood party and said, and I can only imagine the tone of voice he said this in, but he said, would have been cheaper to just pay him the $1 million. Just a man beset
the thing
by
about
Peter
Connery.
Sellers.
The thing about Connery is that, like, also a piece of shit in his way, also physically abusive to women.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing you can say for him is he arrived on set on time and he knew his lines.
He played James Bond.
He was capable of finishing a James Bond movie, something which Peter Sellers, despite seemingly wanting to, and at a time in his career when he was able to get everything he could possibly want, was not.
Just goes to show listeners that if you want a career in acting, there are two things you need. One is to be unique, and the other is to be good to work with. But we have a science-based system on this podcast. This is a mainline James Bond film.
Yes, it is.
So we can deploy the Scum Spectrum.
We can.
Stands for SMART, cultural insensitivity, unprovoked violence and misogyny.
Mm.
Go ahead.
There's just a note here that says, in original versions of the films, there was a cardboard cutout of Sellers in the background of shots that was used for the final scenes.
That's fucking hilarious.
Really good. Anyway, sorry, carry on, my darling.
Smom. I think it's fairly low.
Which Bond are we doing each in turn? What are we?
Yeah, all collectively.
How smarmy is the movie?
I would say it's relatively low. Like even
I'd say like a
Sellers
1 or a
isn't
2.
that smart. Yeah,
it's pretty low.
1 even.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Dare I ask cultural insensitivity?
Oh, there's so many accents, man.
It's broad. It's broader. That it offends more cultures than a Bond film normally
I've
does.
never seen someone be so culturally insensitive to the Scottish.
No.
We usually just go for 1 or 2, but we've really kind of done a shotgun approach here.
I mean, and the fact that we called it cultural insensitivity instead of racism means that Scottish people still count. Therefore, it's gotta be high. It's gotta be like
7, I think.
I think
it's a 7,
so.
baby.
I think so. It's a 7.
Yeah.
Now, unprovoked violence. I mean, are we counting like shooting an extra in the course of production, or is it just purely what's scripted to happen?
I think it's within the text of the movie more than.
I do want to give it some points for the death of the beautiful woman in the Jaguar, which was really unnecessarily violent.
But Bond just like explodes a woman.
So.
That's I want to say like a 3, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Now,
misogyny is very funny to me. Don't take that quote out of context.
I'm absolutely going to take that quote out of context. Sorry, Devin. Could you just say that a bit more like clearly?
I'm editing this one, I think, actually, so I'll just put in a raw clip of me saying it here. Misogyny is very funny to me.
That's not funny, Devin.
Well done.
Oh, fuck off. But it's very funny to me because, like, one of the earlier scenes, they're like, oh, the misogyny, it's on purpose. It's actually sarcastic. It's actually satire because you see James Bond, he's really uptight and celibate in this movie. So we're trying to destroy that image. And that concept is dropped like a sack of fucking potatoes.
Yeah,
and the misogyny continues unabated.
I almost want to punish it more for hypocrisy there, you know?
So funny.
I think it's got to be pretty high. I also think, to be honest, I think 7 for cultural insensitivity is a bit low. We have given higher than 7 in the past. Like, I like You Only Live Twice was an 8, and Octopussy was an 8. I think this film's got to be an 8 or a 9 for cultural insensitivity.
I didn't realize we'd gone past 7 for.
We have.
Yeah, do it.
The highest we've ever given was 9.
Sax Roma Chinese accent, multiple occasions. Yeah, it's an 8, I think.
Do it.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna give it an extra point there. And misogyny, I think it's that's got to be pretty high. Like, women exist to be fucked.
6.
They do have some agency. 6, I think, is solid.
So where does this land in the canon of Bond movies?
That's 14, 17. That gives it an 18, which is surprisingly low, but it's because it wasn't particularly smarmy or violent.
That's true. I guess M does just like blow up Bond's house, but like
it's just everyone dies at the end. Like it's like the fucking "and it was all a dream."
All a dream.
It's a very bad film. I'd say it's about average on our Scum Spectrum.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
In addition to our scientific system, we do have a somewhat more
merit-based?
Kronstein, Rosette, and Bar.
So impossible for me to even ask who should get the Kronstein Rosette in this one. We have a golden opportunity here, and we would be fools to not take it. A Goodnight Cross.
A Goodnight Cross.
A good character who goes above and beyond for. Well, I think Moneypenny fucking all the agents in MI6 is kind of going above and beyond duty.
What about the like agent who's like, what are you, gay or something? Who does succeed in poisoning Woody Allen?
Yeah, she actually just like wins the movie.
That's true. That's a good point. She does.
It's so weird, and she doesn't have a name, by the way. Her name is just the Detainer. Brackets
What?
James Bond 007. No, yeah, that's right. I'm reading it.
Yeah,
here.
James Bond. All right,
Bond
so the Goodnight Cross goes to James Bond 007. Easy. That was
that was nice and easy.
I don't know why we didn't think of that.
Yeah, and of course, Calman Star. Yeah, one of the only.
The French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence.
We've been to pull back the curtain and just a little bit for the boys. We've been looking to give someone a Calman Star for like a couple of episodes. And
they had
given the
to earn
opportunity
for it
to be fucking Orson Welles. means that
Yeah,
we
that's
may
cool.
never give out another one. Just because you have to reach this tier.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen.
We love him.
We
What are we
do.
doing next time, Alice?
Well, I mean, the next mainline Bond is going to be the 1954 TV adaptation Casino Royale.
Do you know what I've also just noticed? This comes out on the 22nd of December, so technically, this is our Christmas special.
It's a very Merry Christmas, Mr. Bond.
You, boy, what Bond is it?
It's a Merry Bondmas. Oh, happy Bondmas.
Join us in the new year for fucking Daniel Craig.
Yeah. We will actually do Daniel Craig.
This is a genuine problem. We will genuinely give you Daniel Craig next time.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
we will definitely give you Daniel Craig for the
2
bonus.
weeks is too long.
For the bonus, yes. We should do
Fucking Stormbreaker is what we're doing next.
Stormbreaker, and then after that, at some point, we're going to do fucking Dante's Peak, so we can get some old Brosnan in.
Fucking on.
Yes, we are. We're going to do Dante's Peak.
At some point.
You said that on the podcast, and now we have to do it.
Yeah, you have to do
my
Dante's
choice next.
Peak.
You can't fucking
Yeah, it's Dev
chug
next.
me in like this. You can't dog the boys like that. Whatever, I'm editing all of this out.
All right, fine.
I probably
Well,
won't.
Oh, before we go, special thanks to friend of the show, Mrs. X, who saved the recording before we started by helping us set up
Absolutely.
the microphone.
Thank you, Mrs. X. We have a Patreon. On there, you
Special
can listen
thanks to the guy who came to my apartment and was like, took a look at my fucking smoke alarm and then went, "Can you leave the door ajar? I'll be right back," and has not come back.
Yeah, Peter Sellers.
About 2 hours. Peter Sellers, yeah, he just hit the
Yeah,
bricks.
you showed him up with Princess Margaret, and now he's not coming back, man.
Oh, God, I hope that shit works. So, rest in peace to Devon.
Yep. Subscribe to the Patreon. We have bonus episodes. The next bonus episode is going to be Alex Rider's Stormbreaker.
That's right, baby.
Child Spy. This has been Kill James Bond. I have been James Bond 007. Joining me have been James Bond 007 and James Bond 007. And it's at this point that we must simply say,
It is now that time of day I have set apart for Debussy.
7 James Bonds at Casino Royale.
Oh, what a perfect episode of Kill James Bond.
7 James Bonds at Casino Royale. They came to save the world and win a gal at Casino Royale. 6 of them went to a heavenly spot. The 7th one is going to a place where it's terribly